When did you realize your child's trauma wasn't over? I thought my son was fine. 2 years after the crash, everyone kept telling me how well Ethan was doing. His therapist said he was making great progress. His teachers said he was back to his normal self. Even my wife said he seemed like his old happy kid again. I believed them all. The accident happened when Ethan was 7. Some idiot ran a stop sign and slammed right into our passenger side. Ethan was in his booster seat, screaming while I crawled back to check on him. His leg was twisted wrong and there was blood everywhere. He spent 3 months in a cast and another 6 months in physical therapy. But kids bounce back, right? That's what everyone said. For the next 2 years, Ethan went to therapy every week. He drew pictures of cars and talked about feeling safe. The therapist taught him breathing exercises and gave him a stress ball shaped like a dinosaur. He seemed to love going. He'd come home chattering about what games they played or what new coping skill he learned. I was so proud of how brave he was being. At home, he was mostly back to normal. He played video games, built Lego sets, and bugged me to let him stay up late on weekends. Sure, he was a little more clingy than before, but he was still just a kid. When we drove places, he'd sit quietly in the back, but lots of kids do that. I figured he was just growing up, getting more mature. Then last month, we were leaving the grocery store. I was carrying 2 bags of groceries and Ethan was walking next to me, holding my free hand like he always did. We were almost to our car when someone in the parking lot slammed on their brakes. The screech was loud and sudden, like tires fighting against asphalt. Ethan froze. Not just stopped walking, but completely froze like a statue. His little hand gripped mine so tight I thought he might break my fingers. When I looked down at him, his face was white as paper and his eyes were huge. He was breathing so fast it sounded like he'd been running for miles. I dropped the groceries and knelt down next to him. Ethan, it's okay. We're safe. But he couldn't even look at me. He was staring at where the sound came from, shaking like a leaf. I tried to get him to walk to our car, but his legs wouldn't move. We ended up sitting on the curb for almost 15 minutes until he could breathe normally again. The whole drive home, he was quiet. Then, right as we pulled into our driveway, he asked me something that broke my heart. Dad, do you think cars know when they hurt someone? His voice was so small and scared. I didn't know what to say. That night after he went to bed, I called his therapist. That's when I found out the truth. Ethan had stopped talking about the accident months ago during their sessions. Not because he was better, but because he figured out that talking about it made everyone worried and sad. So he learned to hide it instead. She told me that kids often do this. They become little actors, pretending they're fine so the adults around them won't feel guilty or scared. Ethan had been protecting us while his trauma was still eating him alive inside. The therapist asked me some questions that made me realize how blind I'd been. Did Ethan ever ask to sit in the front seat? No. He always insisted on staying in the back. Did he play with toy cars anymore? Now that I thought about it, no. He used to love his Hot Wheels collection, but I hadn't seen him touch them in over a year. She told me to pay attention to what happened at intersections when we drove. The next day, I watched him in my rearview mirror as we approached a 4-way stop. His whole body tensed up. His hands gripped the sides of his car seat, and he held his breath until we were safely through. He'd been doing this every single time we drove somewhere, and I never noticed. That weekend, I sat him down and told him it was okay to be scared, that he didn't have to pretend to be brave for me or anyone else. He started crying and told me he hears the sound of metal crunching every time we go through an intersection. He said he keeps his dinosaur stress ball in his backpack at school because sometimes kids slam their lockers and it sounds like our car getting hit. We started over with therapy, but this time I was more involved. I learned that healing from trauma isn't a straight line. Kids don't just bounce back like everyone says they do. Sometimes they learn to hide their pain so well that even the people who love them most can't see it.